Welcome to the 2025 Subaru Ascent. We'll do a perks, quirks, and Irks video. We'll start off with some baseline numbers, then we'll go into what's new for 2025, and then the perks, quirks, and Irks. So it's a carryover engine, so we still have the 2.4-liter turbocharged four-cylinder engine, and it puts out 260 horsepower, 277 pound-feet of torque through a CVT, and Subaru's famous symmetrical all-wheel drive is still here, and I really don't think it's going to go anywhere at all. So power-wise, that's what we have. Now, as far as what's new for 2025, there's a new trim, and it's called the Sport trim in Canada. It's called the Bronze Edition in the States. And here's what the Sport/Bronze Edition trim gets you. It gets you a 360 cam, it gets you bronze wheels, some bronze accents around the outside, gets you black all-weather seats. Now, the Onyx trim in Canada has gray all-weather seats. It's not new for what it is, but it's a new color. So, yeah, something's better than nothing. And you get the brown accent stitching inside. This new edition seats 7, and it is positioned second from the top, just below the Premier trim in Canada. Subaru has also gone from 7 trims to 6 trims for the Ascent for this year. So there is no longer a touring trim with the bench seat in the middle for 8 seats. There is no more limited trim with the bench seats/8 seats. Now the lineup is Convenience, which seats 8, Touring and Onyx, which seats 7, the Limited, which seats 8, and then up top we have the Sport and the Premier, which also seats 7. So you want the middle seat to have 3 places for it. You either go bottom of the lineup or in the middle. So usually this kind of stuff happens just before a significant redo, all new generations. So I think that's what Subaru is gearing up for. Maybe 26, but I think more likely for 2027. Starting off with the perks column, their symmetrical all-wheel drive is first up for me, and it's one of those by association things. It's what Subaru is known for. So if you are looking in this class of vehicle, midsize SUV, 7/8 seats, 3 rows, and you're doing a fair amount of non-pavement driving, it's not quite real off-roading, but if it's maybe deep woods camping or somewhere with dirt or gravel, whether it be on weekends or whether you live somewhere that has less pavement than other types of materials on the roads, this might point you in the direction of the Ascent. Next up is towing capacity, and you can get up to 5,000 pounds here, same as you could in 2024. For the majority of the 2025 Ascent, it's a carryover model. Again, there's that new Sport/Bronze Edition, but if you are doing stuff and things and you need stuff to be towed, 5,000 pounds is a pretty respectable figure. Next up is standard safety, and there is so much of it through Subaru's standard EyeSight safety suite. And I think that's the second thing that Subaru's most well known for, with their symmetrical all-wheel drive being first. So regardless of what trim you get, there is a long list of standard safeties. Another plus is that you still get the 8.6 inches of ground clearance here for 2025, just like you got in 2024. And again, if you are doing what Subaru's pushing you to do, which is go out and adventure and go camping and go off the paved path, having nearly 9 inches of ground clearance definitely makes a difference there. More on the outdoorsy side, you get the dual X mode on the higher trims. Not all trims. Regular trims just get the regular X mode, and the higher trims get the dual X mode. More perks include standard wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, standard heated steering wheel, standard heated front seats. 5 out of these 6 trims here, with the base trim being the exception, get this big panoramic sunroof that you can see in the background. And I call that a perk because it's 5 out of the 6. Sometimes you've got to go up to the top trim or the top 2 trims, but the fact that Subaru's made it nearly standard on the Ascent, definite perk for me. There's a decent amount of cargo space in here as well. 458 liters with the 3rd row up, 1232 with the 3rd row down, and with 2nd and 3rd rows down, you get a total of 2,140 liters. It's not the best in this segment, but there's still plenty of cargo space to be had. And you can also get a roof box with your standard roof rails. Again, you can also put things behind the vehicle with the up to 5,000 pounds of towing. So while, again, it may not be the most in its segment, it still is a respectable amount. Last 2 perks here are that you get steering responsive headlights, which is a very cool move. Helps you see around corners just a little better than you would without it. And for 2024, the Ascent was a top safety pick plus through the IIHS. didn't have anything published for 2025. It has only been out for, I think, a few months, so that data will be out shortly. But if it's anything like 2024, safety definitely scores high here. On to the quirks pile. So first up is that the lower 3 trims get 6 speakers for an audio system, and the top 3 trims get 14. Not quite triple, but more than double. And I don't know, it's just a weird thing. I realize from a cost savings aspect, that's the best way to do it. But maybe reward somebody who's getting the 3rd trim or 2nd trim or just anything but 6. It's just a little quirky move there. Even 8 speakers, just there's more passengers than there are speakers in the lower 3 trims. Next up is the instrument cluster, and while it could have easily been an Irk, I want to go with a Quirk. So there are 2 massive analog dials and a pretty thin digital screen in the middle, and it's definitely more analog than it is digital for a 2025 vehicle. I always say I don't care whether it's analog or digital or a mix of both, as long as I can see what information I need to and pull it out as fast as possible. That's all I really care about. The Ascent came out, Subaru had this whole campaign of 19 cup holders, and it was a weird thing to plant the flag on, but you know, it's still here. And a Quirk is in the 2nd row here. There are cup holders at the bottom of the center console that fold out and collapse when you're not using them for more space. And I don't really think they're necessary. It's a cute piece of engineering. Slight irk is that you take a turn a little too fast and whatever's in those cup holders will easily fall. And it also has a high risk of being kicked over or knocked over by accident. Last up in the quirks pile is the attention to detail in the housing assembly up front. There's this cool tiny little piece at the top all the way at the back of the lighting assembly that has the Subaru logo in it. And it's a pretty cool upscale move. It looks really sharp and there's some nice design lines in it. And while Subaru definitely didn't have to do it, I don't think many would actually notice or care. I notice Subaru and I care Subaru. Wrapping up with the Irks column, and there are no new Irks here, but they are still very pronounced. And I really hope these get addressed in the next generation. So the infotainment, not new to being disliked by many. Sure, it's big and it looks pretty sharp and it frames the cabin nicely, 11.6 inches, portrait style, but it is slow, and controlling the HVAC through it minus 1,000,000 points, having to take your eyes off the road more than you should to navigate the infotainment system. Just not a great execution of design. And I know it came out a couple of years ago, and a lot of other manufacturers are in the full screen, nearly everything through the screen setup. But I didn't like it when it came out, and I still don't like it now. Here's the asterisks. There are rumors through alleged spy shots that the new 2026 Subaru Outback has a few more hard touch buttons as opposed to what we have here. So if that is the case, I can see Subaru having that trickle down to the rest of the lineup. The drive feel isn't great. The steering is pretty light. It's a little bland, and Ascent drivers are not buying this for its delightful driving dynamics. That's my guess anyway. But just something with a little more life to it, a little more firmness, a little more responsiveness would go such a long way, I feel, in improving the value and appeal of the Subaru Ascent. For the most part, it's a great vehicle in its class, but if you care at all about driving, or driving dynamics are somewhere on your secondary list or even your primary list, the Ascent just doesn't do it as well as the competitors do. The Subaru Ascent continues to be gasoline only. The bright spot is that there is a Forester hybrid coming out later on in 2025, and I think that will also trickle down to the rest of the lineup. Maybe not the performance side of things, but as far as the Forester goes and the Outback goes, even the Crosstrek, I feel those will get the hybrid treatment, and I imagine the Ascent will as well. But for now, for 2025, having a lineup that is gasoline only, it's not all that great. If given the choice between better driving dynamics and a geared transmission, I would rather have better driving dynamics and a CVT. The noise and droning stuff can be drowned out by just cranking up the audio, but just having this CVT and average-ish driving dynamics, not the best. But again, consider the class of vehicle, consider the intended driver, buyer, market, demographic, and the driving dynamics don't really register all that high as opposed to the form and functionality here. Finally, the front seats are okay, I guess. They're not very well bolstered for your thighs or for your sides. Yes, the Sport trim, just like the Onyx trim, has these soft hex, easy to clean, easy to wipe off muck and dirt and whatever from it. But I would like a little more. Not much more, Subaru, just a little more. I've done nearly 400 kilometers on this test week, and the seats are very comfortable. I'll give Subaru that, but just not very supportive at all. On to fuel consumption. So we have an 11.0 liters per 100 kilometers combined here, and you throw in the 73-liter fuel tank, and from top to bottom, you can go 664 kilometers. Not too bad. And it's about average for the rest of the crop. I'll run through some numbers really quickly for you, and it'll be in liters per 100 kilometers combined. So Kia Telluride, 11.7, Honda Pilot, 11 to 11.8, trim dependent, Toyota Highlander, 9.9. Now the hybrid Highlander dips down all the way to 6.7, which is about half of what you get here. Mazda CX-90, 9.3 to 9.5, trim dependent. Ford Explorer, 10.4 to 11.6. Pathfinder from Nissan, 10.6. Who knows what's going to happen with Nissan in the next coming years. And the Palisade is 11.1. The Atlas is 11.1. And the Reverse is 11.2 from Chevrolet. Let's wrap up with pricing. And these are in Canadian dollars through MSRP figures. The range across 6 trims starts at $45,995 and goes all the way up to $55,995. The Sport trim comes in second from the top, and the MSRP there is $53,995. What's interesting is the trim just below it, which is the Limited, which is the 8-seater, comes in $1,000 less at $52,995. So for $1,000 more, going from the Limited to the Sport trim, you get the bronze wheels, the bronze accents, the brown stitching, the 360 cam, and these black all-weather seats. So if you want to go even further, all the way up to the top trim, it's only an extra $2,000. And to me, the big standout there is the Napa leather seats and the cooled seats. So take your pick from what you want. And obviously the 8 versus 7-seaters. I like the Sport trim. I think it has a terrific look to it. Bit of a throwback to that classic Subaru blue paint and gold/bronze wheels. I think it looks really sharp and black. But that's what we're looking at price-wise. Pretty competitive across the rest of the segment as well. So Subaru's aligned there. That's going to wrap it up for the 2025 Subaru Ascent review. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I'll get you answers as soon as possible. And I'm always happy to engage in respectful conversation. I invite you to join our social media platforms. I thank you, I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.